Welcome to the press conference of
Recording in progress.
opposition for November 22nd, 2024. Joining today we have Mr. Ganesh Manipal, Member of Parliament, Shadow Minister of Local Government and Regional Development, and Elson Lowe, Treasurer of the PNCR and economist. Today's press statement will be read by Mr. Ganesh Manipal.
Thank you very much. Questions for the Gcom chairperson, Claudette Singh. We are informed that Gcom chairperson Claudette Singh will be hosting a press conference this afternoon. The infrequency of such an event testifies to the low energy, the low interest, and the low competence of the Gcom chair in fulfilling her obligations to the Guyanese people of conducting elections that are free, efficient, and credible. Justice Singh has shown little care for or awareness of her obligation to ensure the public can trust her stewardship and the Elections Commission. At her press conference, the Gcom chair must provide satisfactory answers, at minimum, to the following questions. 1. Why did she prevent Gcom from fully examining the verified evidence of voter impersonation submitted by the APNU AFC, which could have allowed the Commission to determine what measures are necessary to prevent a repetition of such breaches? 2. Why did she vote against the proposal that Gcom should conduct an evaluation of its management of the March 2020 general and regional elections in line with standard organizational and administrative practices to correct any deficiencies and make improvements? 3. Is she not concerned that her consistent voting in cahoots with the PPP commissioners would create the public perception that she is in the PPP's pocket? 4. What has she done to foster public and stakeholder confidence in herself as chairperson and in Gcom? 5. Does she understand why many in society have lost confidence in her and are calling for her to resign? The Gcom chair has been hiding from the public for too long. We believe it reflects her inadequacy and unsuitability for the job. In the interest of the nation, she should go and be replaced by someone who is high energy, competent, mission-oriented, and skilled in consensus building. Government continuing inaction and ineptitude are causing more lives on our roads. A PNCR APNU government will establish a dedicated agency for traffic management and road safety. The recent accident on Sheriff Street involving two sand trucks and tragically claiming the life of Carlton Smart has yet again exposed the fact that the government has no urgency, no motivation, and no plan to address the growing road carnage. This carnage continues to affect all our highways and all types of road users and vehicles: pedestrians, motorcycles, cars, minibuses, and trucks. The paltry measures on licensing and penalties the government announced yesterday will have little impact and will not inspire any public confidence. Enforcement of such regulations is seriously undermined when PPP bigwigs and senior police ranks intervene to reverse or quash the intended actions, and in some cases charges imposed on drivers by traffic cops on the roads. In the broad scheme of things, in the broad scheme of things, introducing harsher penalties without addressing infrastructural, regulatory, and enforcement failures is analogous to placing a plaster on a gunshot wound. The government's focus on punitive measures, while needed to some extent, does not address these core issues in which the government itself is a large part of the problem. At our July 19th press conference, we submitted several approaches and measures which the government not unexpectedly has ignored. We had proposed then that 1. Addressing congestion and road deaths needs to be tackled within a policy framework that is data-driven. 2. A review of traffic accident statistics must be urgently undertaken to determine the causes of accidents and their relative contributions. 3. Safety audits must be conducted on our major roads. As part of this audit, all substandard design elements that contribute to reducing the safety of the roadway must be identified, such as rideability, the state of the surface of the road, and proximity of fixed objects to the carriageway. And 4, robust education and enforcement programs must become a norm. The PPP's sporadic and ineffective campaigns are a waste of time. Let us add to these proposals our intention as the next government to establish a dedicated state agency to implement a comprehensive road safety and traffic management plan. We believe that the responsibility for road safety and traffic management must now extend beyond law enforcement and the Guyana Police Force. These complex issues require multidimensional, scientific, and engineering mindsets and approaches. The responsibilities of the proposed agency will include 1. The collection and processing of data on road usage, including traffic flows and accident statistics. 2. The conduct of safety audits with the timely identification of critical upgrades to enhance road users' safety. 3. The conduct of year-round education and awareness programs. 4. Research of international best practices. 5. Proposing changes to relevant policies, laws, and regulations. 6. Working closely with and advising the police traffic department and the Ministry of Public Works. The agency must be well funded and staffed with appropriate skill sets in traffic and road safety engineering, data analysis, public communication, surveys and research, and traffic management. It must submit annual reports on the activities and performance and be answerable to Parliament. Placing most of the responsibilities for road safety and traffic management within our dedicated agency will ensure this national issue receives continuous and adequate investments of time, energy, and brainpower, and even funding. As we have seen, piecemeal and intermittent crisis-driven efforts have failed. The PNCR APNU, as the next government, will adopt a comprehensive approach to bring safety and sanity back to our roads. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now take questions on the press statement. It is customary by the raise of hands to state your name and media purpose.
Fatan Marshall from News Source. Mr. Manipal, with respect to, you spoke a lot about data collection. Um, is the data already available um, as we speak? And what exactly you'll be looking for, and how do you intend to, should you form the next government, utilize that information to guide policies? What are some of the weaknesses? You said major emphasis has been placed on putting laws in place, but what are some of the other areas you think should be addressed?
Thank you,
And
Swet.
why this unit wasn't formed under the previous government, since accident is not an issue that is new.
Thank you very much, Svetlana. Let me start first by saying you said that isn't data available. I don't believe adequate data is available, and that is because the focus of the Ministry of Public Works, the Ministry of Home Affairs, and the Guyana Police Force is not one, in my view, where they are focusing on addressing the issue at its core, but rather they are looking to look at what exists, and we have to take into context the whole aspect of the enhancement and the broadening of our movement across the country, with there being more roads and so on. We have to deal with it in a more scientific and engineering mindset. And that is why it is necessary for us to have this specific agency that can focus primarily on addressing all the concerns that were mentioned in the press statement, and all the objectives ought to be to give the policy makers at the level of the parliament the direction in which they ought to see and formulate laws to manage. You ask also, why is it that it was not seen for the previous government to set it up? I didn't serve as a minister of the previous government. That's the first point I will make. And secondly, now in our country, we have this expansion. We have this broadening of our movement, as I said, roads, different places, highways being constructed. Oil has really been, and the oil resource has really been a blessing to us in disguise. But at the end of the day, we have to ensure that we have all the necessary tools at our disposal to ensure that we deal with it in a way where we can still maintain and protect our people from themselves.
I would add to that it's really critical that we recognize that some of what has changed about Guyana over the past few years is that we've really seen an uptick in the use of large trucks. This is something that has been on many people's minds lately, and that has had a couple of effects. The first being, it has raised the stakes on the roadways. It is, of course, trucks, when they do get into accidents, it is more likely that people will be killed if if people are involved in the accident, pedestrians, etc. It's much more likely that they'll be killed. And second of all, this has had a major impact upon the durability of our roads. You would have noticed that you see very deep potholes that you wouldn't have seen as frequently in the past, and that has necessitated continuous upgrade of these roads. Now, it is, I would think that any government that is building the roads should be looking at this already and anticipating how the roads should be constructed. But of course, that's not what this government is doing. So we're saying there needs to be an agency in place to look at traffic flow, to assess the appropriate policies, and to provide that kind of advice so that we can deal with these issues. You will also have observed that these truck drivers are taking all sorts of different routes to avoid the traffic, and therefore putting pressure on a lot of roads that are not meant for that, community roads and so on. So that is something that would have to be assessed, of course. So really what we're saying is there's been a substantive change to what is going on in Guyana's roads. Of course, we've always had our difficulties with traffic and with traffic accidents, and it's something that we'll continue to work on as a nation. But really, this represents a problem that is not being dealt with properly. and where you're seeing people killed, unfortunately, far too frequently for I think any government to be comfortable. And so it is a new phenomenon that we were faced with as a nation. But of course, it's one that the government should have anticipated, given the advent of oil, as Ganesh just mentioned.
And let me add also, Svetlana, you see that meeting that President Irfan Ali had with the leadership of the Guyana police force, and then he comes out with this boisterous kind of manner. You know, he sits there with the acting police commissioner on one side and the others on the other side. And then I oftentimes hear them saying commissioner of police. Like, I don't know, did they confirm this man behind closed doors? Perhaps he needs to answer that, because I've noticed of recent they keep saying commissioner of police. And we know him to be the acting commissioner of police, and we also know that he's not doing a good job. But outside of that, when he sits there and he talks about giving the police the mandate to execute the full length of the law, I didn't know that the police had to get a mandate to do that. I thought that was their mandate, to execute the full length of the law. But that is just something that is farcical and laughable, because many people know that the owners of these trucks that are traversing are not necessarily the drivers of these trucks. They are friends, families, and favorites of people in high offices in the People's Progressive Party. And I have interacted with police officers in blue, black, and white. And as I said in the statement, when they stop these truck drivers, when the errant drivers, when they stop them for speeding and various breaches of the traffic laws, and they attempt to charge and place them before the court and so on, these drivers make a simple phone call to their bosses, and then another phone call comes down to the police officer to let it slide, let it go. These officers in their blue, black, and white have complained continuously about that level of disrespect, that level of interference, that level of issues that they face. So fixing the problem doesn't require Irfan sitting thinking he is King Kong and surrounded by the top brass of the police force, and then he puts on a voice and a boisterous attitude to the nation and believe it will be fixed. It requires non-interference in the way the police are supposed to execute their duties. It requires these brownclothes officers stop instructing the blue, black, and white clothes officers and allow them to do their job. One of the fundamental problems we have in this country is the interference in the agencies that are supposed to execute their functions. I just wanted to add that.
Ganesh, the other point that I thought you would mention is, ultimately, this is a question of corruption. And it is a question of corruption at the highest levels, such that our institutions, that is to say the Guyana Police Force, that is not functioning as it should. And until we get a government that is committed to dealing with corruption, committed to rooting it out, not just standing up, sitting down and puffing out their chests, as Ganesh rightly pointed out, we're not going to see progress. We need to see commitment to actually improving institutions rather than grandstanding, which is, I think, commonplace at this point.
Are there any other questions on?
Mr. Manfall, I know, for example, the Linden Suicide Highway, there was once a system that prevented, say, for example, the logging trucks from utilizing it at certain hours, 6 to 6 or before or after. I don't think that system is no longer in place, but do you think that is applicable to some of the main roads in our city and even the highway, where you have these trucks utilize them between 6 nights?
It's more than that. That can be a part of it, but it's more than that, because you need to also look at international best practices. And I listed a couple of focus that we ought to focus on that is in the press statement. But look at, for example, the weight that these trucks are
Yep.
carrying on the roads? Are
Overloaded.
the roads built to take off that amount of weight? And you hear Bishop Edgell saying that they are going to put up signs and what's not, but you're not seeing any proper action that is being taken. And the problem is the government is focusing on developing one side and it is coming at the expense of another side. And sometimes you find that, you know what, they built a road. If you look at Sobrianville right out here, Sheriff Street onto Sobrianville, that's a brand new road. But if you drive on it right now, you would want to know if that road has been in existence for years because of the state it's in. And I passed there the other day. People with cars and buses, they have to be absolutely careful. And the nights and even in the day, it's difficult if you don't know that area to know where the bumps are and where the bulges are and so on. It is unfortunate. So it is more than that, Svetlana, that can complement it. But there are so many more things that you have to look at in addressing this issue. And it is not just only truck drivers. It relates to other users of the roadways also. And that is why we are saying that there is need for the establishment of a dedicated agency to implement a comprehensive road safety and traffic management plan. And that, we believe, will serve in the direction and assist us greatly in combating half of the problems, if not all, that we currently face on our roadways.
Are there any other questions outside of today's first statement?
Yes, a very good morning to you. My name is Adam Harris. Mr. Manny Paul, what is the age of a licensed truck driver? How long must one be driving before one qualifies as a truck driver? Has that regulation been changed?
All right, so I'm going to be very honest with you. I'm not aware of what's the age of a truck driver per se, but what I do know is that when one engages in the process of acquiring a license to use the roadway with a vehicle, with a motor vehicle, they have to, I think they're given
A lorry license. You can get
a car and van I got first. Car and van together, I got that first. And I'm not very old. I may look so, but I'm not. I got my license, a car and van at the age of 17. And I had to, I remember I had to do it 1 year, the car and van 1 year, I think, and then I could have done additional. And then I added on a motorcycle. All through the right means, by the way, writing the test and so on. And then I think then the others came on. But the fact of the matter is that you don't just appear and get a truck license. You don't just appear in front of you don't go to classes, the four classes that they normally would have, and write the exam and then do the practical. You don't do it for truck right away. You have to go through those smaller vehicles first and get an acquaintance and familiarize yourself with the road usage and so on, and study the books and know the rules, and then it's a valid question, because I see some very young people driving these trucks, and they are behaving as though it's a toy truck when you see how they're behaving, especially on the East Bank Highway. So it's a valid concern. And again, Adam, I hope that that our proposal, and if not, our entry into office in 2025, will address this concern.
Mr. Brown, where is Mr. Mahay Paul, can you say to what extent do you believe that the Indian Prime Minister was campaigning for the People's Progressive Party, and what impact that might have on the opposition's chances of winning the next elections?
First, I believe the opposition, the APNU, the PNCR, we will win the next elections. The People's Progressive Party is doing everything to lose, and we welcome that. when you look at the degree of corruption, the incompetence, and you look at the whole arrangement with contracts, friends, families, and favorites, and you look at the way they're treating the ordinary, hard-working, tax-paying Guyanese, and you look at the people, the rural and urban communities suffering, some of them still holding pink slips for COVID cash grant. I don't know if they're going to get a blue slip now for this 100,000 cash grant, but we believe that the People's Progressive Party is not focused on delivering good for the people of Guyana, so I believe we will win these elections coming up in 2025. When it comes to Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji's visit, the opposition appreciates and the opposition welcomed his visit. We believe his visit was one that was necessary, and we also admire the fact that he spoke to our people at the level of the National Assembly. I want to say, however, that when the president of Ghana, his name is Nana Akufo-Addo, I think. Forgive me if I got that incorrectly. But he made a state visit in 2019. And I want to say, Dennis, that the government at that time in 2019, when it was confirmed that the president of Ghana was coming to Guyana, reached out to the then leader of the opposition, Barrett Jagdeo, informed him of that state visit, requested of him to provide a time at his convenience within the days of that visit, requested of him to provide a place within the time of that visit, so that there can be an official engagement between the president of Ghana and the leader of the opposition. Because we have always believed in democracy for its real meaning. I want to say that Prime Minister Modi's visit, the opposition was not informed officially, was not invited to any activity officially, and did not participate in any engagement with Prime Minister Modi officially. The picture that we see circulating with the leader of the opposition and Prime Minister Modi is a picture that was taken after Prime Minister Modi and the leader of the opposition happened to have exited the dome of the National Assembly through the same door. And by virtue of the leader of the opposition exiting, they met up, shook hands, and the leader of the opposition uttered a few words to Prime Minister Modi, I think within the line of referring to countries like Guyana as low-lying developing states. And it was very impromptu. It was not planned or anything of the sort, because in fact, we had gotten instructions from the National Assembly indicating that there will be no handshakes, that there will only be after Prime Minister Modi delivers his speech. We are going to leave to go to take the picture, and we're going to stand wherever our name is, and then the speaker is going to come with Prime Minister Modi and stand, take the picture, after which Prime Minister Modi leaves. So it was done with complete disdain for the parliamentary opposition, his visit. It was unfortunate. It is not something that should be tolerated by any functioning democracy that believes strongly, especially in this case where the PPP is trying to say that they're doing everything democratically correct. I want to put on record that at no time the APNU AFC hid President Nana Akufo-Addo from the parliamentary opposition at that time in 2019. And it is very, very much unfortunate, wicked and demonic, I would say, for them to have hid Prime Minister Modi's visit from the parliamentary opposition. Now, in terms of Modi's manner, in terms of campaigning, as you may want to say, I don't know if I will categorize what he said and did as a form of campaigning. What I will say is that he has recognized Indo-Guyanese. He delivered a speech that was really, how do I put it? It was a speech that he did not deliver a speech to expect criticisms, if I may put it that way. And his recognition of, I figure you're drawing that question from his recognition of Bharat Jagdeo, Donald Ramotar, and Irfan Ali as ambassadors for Indo-Guyanese. Well, I'm an ambassador for Indo-Guyanese too, and I can list a number of other persons who are and have been ambassadors for Indo-Guyanese. We champion the rights of Indo-Guyanese. We believe that Indo-Guyanese are important in the bigger scheme of things, but we don't operate as though Indo-Guyanese are the only set of people that have a fundamental right here. We're a country of 6 races, and the same level of treatment Indo-Guyanese enjoy must be enjoyed by the other races too, our Afro-Guyanese, Amerindian Guyanese, European Guyanese, Chinese Guyanese. All of them must enjoy the same right because we are multi-ethnic. So I wouldn't conclude that he was campaigning for them. In fact, I think the Indo-Guyanese in the rural communities may be upset that Jagdeo and Irfan didn't even seek to put on his schedule a visit to Region 2, a visit to Region 6, and maybe they may be even upset that he didn't visit Babuja, and who knows?
Just to add to that,
But do you believe that the comments can have an impact on the way people will go to the next elections, given that is realities of politics?
Guyanese will vote on issues. Guyanese in the 2025 elections will vote on issues. They will vote on matters that are affecting them. They will vote on the fact that there is a high cost of living that is virtually killing us out. They will vote on the fact that there is no focus on equitable distribution of resources. They will vote on the fact that corruption is at its highest. They will vote on the fact that there is a high degree of incompetence at the level of the government. They will vote on the fact that in their own little community, you have a PPP person who claims to be a bigwig. You remember the famous hot dog man that really wants to dictate how they should operate and decide to pull back the cash grant from them. They will vote on the fact that the friends, families, and favorites of the PPP are receiving the significant benefits and not them. They will vote for the APNU. They will vote for the PNCR because they know that what we will do for them is to deliver the resources in an equitable manner to ensure that all of us are lifted with the same tide.
Listen, Dennis, as Ganesh said, Dennis, we're not hearing you. We're not hearing you. Could you repeat? You're breaking up there.
Mr. Mike, what I'm asking, but none of the Indo-Guyanese in the opposition has been cited as an ambassador for Indo-Guyanese. How do you feel about it?
I didn't hear you clearly. Can you repeat that, please?
None of the Indo-Guyanese in the opposition has been named as an ambassador for Indo-Guyanese.
Well, as I said to you, Dennis, the government deliberately excluded the opposition. They deliberately excluded the opposition.
Talking about it, self-voluntary saying, or not saying any of the Indo-Guyanese in the opposition as an ambassador for Indo-Guyanese.
Well, not saying it doesn't mean that he doesn't mean it, right? But I am saying to you that that statement will not have an impact on the elections of 2025. All right, Prime Minister Modi believes so, fine. Not saying somebody from the opposition doesn't necessarily mean that it is not so. Because like I said, I benefited from traveling to India. I participated in the Gen Next Democracy Program last year. I was dubbed an ambassador of Guyana for Indo-Guyanese rights and so on. And I would like to believe that did a fairly good job in India representing Guyana. So I don't think his pronouncement has an impact or will have an impact on our elections, because our people are not affected by what happens in India. They're affected by a lot of things that are happening in Guyana under a government that does not practice true democracy, full of corruption and incompetence. And that is what the people will make their judgment on. That is what they will, that will be their motivating factor to decide. We were not against Prime Minister Modi's visit. I think the Indo community, the Afro community, the Amerindian community, they all admired the fact that he came to Guyana and he addressed the parliament and so on. And he made that statement not in the National Assembly. He made it at an engagement with the Indian diaspora and the Indian community at the National Cultural Center, which again, prominent Indians of the opposition were excluded from because none of us knew about it. It's as though they had selected audience. The PPP clearly had selected audience for these functions. And that cannot be what real democracy is about. What I can tell you, Dennis, is that the opposition will be writing Prime Minister Modi officially to give him our views on what occurred during his time here in Guyana, how we were excluded and not told about the respective functions and ceremonies he would be a part of, and that we did not get to participate in any form of engagement with him. So he does not have a true reflection of what Guyana is. All he has is what Irfan and Jagdeo put in his head.
Dennis, one of the reasons that we want to highlight how important it is for the opposition to engage with dignitaries like Prime Minister Modi is he came here to speak on a series of really vital issues. One, of course, was energy security and the relationship with Guyana going forward, with India being potentially one of the larger buyers of Guyana's crude oil in the future. Now, of course, as time goes on, you'll see different administrations. We, of course, believe that we'll be in office from next year, and we will have our own energy policies. So by not allowing him to engage with us, he has not been able to see what our policies might be like and to frame his own relationship with the Guyana more broadly based on policies that are common across the government and opposition and based on expectations that might be common across the government and opposition. So it is really important for foreign dignitaries to be given the opportunity to engage with the opposition, especially in issues that have a long-term impact like the purchase of Guyana's oil. So what you're seeing from the PPP is an attempt to focus on showmanship rather than substance. And Guyanese have seen through and will continue to see through the PPP's focus on showmanship rather than governance. We spoke earlier at this very press conference about our finale getting up there with senior police officers rather than putting in place a system. Similarly, there is a focus on engaging with the Prime Minister rather than the proper governance approach, which is that he should meet with the opposition. Now, if the PPP is going to continue along this track in the belief that show and tell is all that it is required to win this election, we want to remind them that Guyanese every single day feel the sting of the cost of living. And so they will not be fooled, and we do not believe that they'll be fooled by this approach.
Dennis, let me add too. You noticed, and I don't know if you noticed, but probably if you haven't, you should look back at it. When these 5 agreements were signed and so on, the first time Guyanese heard about them and the first time it was brought to our attention, basically, was when Prime Minister Modi took the stage to speak. Imagine the Prime Minister of India had to tell the Guyanese people what is the agreement his country is entering into with the people of Guyana or the government of Guyana. And afterwards, then Irfan came and he spoke a little bit on the 5 agreements too. But the point is, Irfan should have done it first to the people of Guyana. He did not. And, you know, I don't think this is the only 5 MOUs we have had in our country. We have had probably hundreds of MOUs from 2020 to now. But did the government engage the population and say, well, okay, we have MOUs with this country, that country, or with this agency, that agency, and this is what we are going to expect. This is what we are going to focus on and move. No, they're not engaging our people on issues that are substantial. They're not engaging our people on things that really matter. They are playing optic politics to facilitate nothing else but mass distraction. And that is what I said to many people before the 5:30 meeting was about. That infamous 5:30 meeting where he said he's going to hold the people accountable and so on. I said to him, Sonia Parag and Anand Prasad lied to him and said only one project is delayed for them. When in reality, there are hundreds of programs in the respective regions that fall under local government. They're the markets that are being constructed that are way behind. The very school that Sonia Parag visited the next day is long behind. Irfan said he's going to hold them accountable. Irfan said he's going to do that. Were they held accountable? It was a big show. It was a show that Irfan wanted to present himself as this boss. And to date, he hasn't done anything. And that is exactly what that meeting with the Commissioner of Police Acting and the other leaders of the police force was yesterday. It's nothing else but optic politics to present mass distraction to our people. But I oftentimes say, Dennis and others, our people are sensible people. Our people are educated people. And our people are going to vote on the issues that are affecting them.
Is the link on WhatsApp? The link on WhatsApp?